Yes, indeed, folks. You're tuning in to Blue Please here on WoW Radio with myself, Total Biscuit. And I just want to talk for a second about that little clip there. Just to say, it's not something that I do a lot. I don't beg, and I certainly don't solicit when I can avoid it. We've opened the tip jars for the reason that we think our hosts deserve to get paid for what they do. We think it's the quality of the broadcast is high enough to justify that. But obviously, WoW Radio can't pay these guys. We've got like 35 staff. We can't afford it. So we had a lot of suggestions from listeners as to what to do about that, and a lot of them were asking how they could contribute to the shows directly instead of to the station. And that's cool. So we opened the tip jars, and the idea behind them is that all of our shows are going to continue to be free. Nothing's going to change in that regard. We're going to give you the same high-quality shows every week that hopefully you love and enjoy. And we love doing them. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely adore doing this show. I get so excited for it every week. It's never a chore. It's great to see you guys in the IRC channel, on Twitter, via email, in the iTunes comments, on the forums, everywhere. It's just such a great and vibrant community to be a part of. But if you think the show is worth a couple of shekels, as Octane Hordak likes to call them, that's a good word, shekel. If you think it's worth some of your spare change, you can toss it in the tip jar. Where's it going to go? Well, it's going to go to me. It's going to go to paying bills. It's going to make sure that my wife and son in the States have a roof over their heads. That I can get my son all the supplies he needs for school. And hopefully that we can live a reasonable family life despite the difficult circumstances we're in. And I know it sounds like a sob story. Not really big into that kind of thing. It's entirely up to you. No judgments. It's really nice what you do. I'm really grateful to those who have already put their change into the tip jar. It doesn't matter how large or small. The gesture is what matters. It really makes us feel on WoW Radio like we're doing something worthwhile and we're genuinely entertaining people. That's what I hope that we do. That's why we're here. Now, if we're not entertaining you, then why would we bother? Right, enough of the soliciting and the begging and the panhandling. Let's get on with it. So, Ghost Crawler. I like Ghost Crawler. I've made it clear on the show that I like Ghost Crawler. He often speaks his mind, which is a good thing. He deals very well with the vast majority of complaints that he comes across. Most of his logic is sound. However, every now and again he says something that makes me double take, boggle. So, I found this particular post here. And it says this. It's in response to a thread called Tank Balance and Encounter Design. Now, he posts an awful lot in this particular thread. And there's various posts that we don't care about because they're all tanky stuff, blah, blah, blah. But there is a response to one particular post. Quote, stop trying to balance this game around the simplistic needs of a minute population of elite raiders that are more content with one-person shooters than a complex and interesting MMORPG. My guess is that, like most hardcore raid guilds that I have known, most log on 3 times a week for their 4-hour raid and could care less about the rest of the game. Now, some very odd stuff here. The first is his response doesn't really appear to be aimed at anything. Like he says, this sounds like a bit of elitist chest thumping, but I'll try not to read between the lines too much. Well, here's the thing. Raiding to any level of success and wanting the raid content to be challenging is viewed by the majority of WoW forumites as elitist. Now, of course, it's viewed by me, at least their view of that view, it's viewed by me as pants on head retarded. Why? Because anyone, and I do mean anyone, that thinks that the end game content should be easy to breeze through is an idiot. Why are they an idiot? I will tell you why they're an idiot. Because they are shooting themselves in the foot. Endgame content has to last, because once you have got through the levels and done all the stuff there, that is all you are going to be doing on week-to-week basis. Now, whether the endgame content for you consists of daily quests, in which case, get a real job. Why would you do the same thing over and over and over again when there's no challenge in it? I do that at work, and I get paid real monies for that. That's the only reason I do it. I wouldn't do it otherwise. I wouldn't do it for fun. I can't figure that out. Or whether your endgame consists of PvP or PvE, or maybe role-playing. Whatever. I am fine with anyone doing any of those things. That's fine. However, to suggest that any of those things should be easy and accessible, and by accessible I mean it doesn't matter how good you are, you can get in there and do it anyway. Or it doesn't matter what crazy spec you are, it doesn't matter what crazy gear you have, it doesn't matter what misunderstandings you have as to how the game works, you can go in there and be successful regardless of having any knowledge, experience, skill, or gear. That is a bad thing. That I have a problem with. And I say it's a shot in the foot, because when you... Yeah, this is the hypothetical you. I hope that none of my listeners are like this. When you, the guy who claims that, oh, everyone's being elitist, and, oh, I pay my $15 a month. Of course, if I paid dollars, I wouldn't be speaking this way. That would just be ridiculous. I pay my £8.99 British pounds, and perhaps a few guineas for good measure. I am entitled to everything. Yes, quite. No, you're not. Because if you're entitled to everything and you get everything on a silver platter right there, you can gorge yourself on it, but I can guarantee that you'll feel sick after the fact. Instead of spreading that content out over the course of months and enjoying it a bit at a time at a sensible pace, and of course Blizzard facilitating that pace by making the content challenging enough that you have to spend time on it and learn it instead of blasting through it by AoEing everything, that makes the endgame worthwhile. That keeps you playing from month to month to month. It's a good thing for everybody. Now, don't get me wrong. I do not believe that all endgame content should be rock solid hard, that only the top 2% of raiders or whatever could do it. That's silly. That's something we've moved away from. That's something Blizzard has moved away from. Their design does not dictate that that should happen. But what they did was they provided multiple levels of difficulty. And I am okay with that in principle. I am fine with that. As long as the hard difficulty is actually hard. Now, let's go on with this. Quote, Ghostcrawler. It's hard to talk about a typical hardcore raider, but a lot of them do their progression raiding. I.e. 25 Heroic Coliseum at the moment. Ghostcrawler, pro tip. Most of the really good guilds blasted through that in a week. They were only held back by your silly gating system. As soon as everything was unlocked, boom! All the heroic stuff cleared by the good guilds. So fast. And the other guys won't be far behind, that I can guarantee. Now, anyway. I'm interrupting Ghostcrawler, that's Cardinal Sim. On 3 to 4 nights a week, and spend other nights also doing the 10-player version, or even going back to Old War to get a second hammer or whatever. I don't know very many progression-orientated players that breeze through the content and then log off. Really? I know loads of progression-based players that do exactly that, because I was one of them! Right, here's a hint. We don't only want to play WoW, yeah? A lot of progression-based players are also hardcore gamers. Yeah, they will also play a lot of other games in the process. Say when I was raiding, I was also playing a lot of other stuff. I log on for raids. Yeah? If I have to log on to farm or get money, okay, I accept that. I accept that as a part of the game that I need cash in order to afford my consumables and stuff like that. I need to make sure that I'm prepared for each raid. That's fine. That's okay. It's part of the game. I log on for my raid, I do my raid, I log off, I forget about it. Because that's what I want to do. It's as simple as that. A progression raider wants to progression raid. Doing Old War is not a progression raid. Doing a 10-man is not a progression raid if you're in a 25-man guild. Doing dailies, not progression raiding. PvP, not progression raiding. Now, I don't pretend that these people are the majority. But there is a substantial chunk of the player base that are progression raiders that do not go and do this other nonsense. They do the progression, they do the farming, and they log off. That's it. I recall, with the disaster that was the first 6 months of Wrath of the Lich King, members of my guild, myself included, not logging on to do Nax farming runs. Or to do anything else for that matter. Why? Because it's dull. We've done it to death. It wasn't hard. Therefore, I'm not going to log on and do it. I don't care if there might be an item that might drop that I need. It's not worth 4.5 hours of work to possibly get that item if the dungeon itself is not enjoyable. It's as simple as that. Now, I can understand doing Ulduar because the vast majority of guilds have not cleared all the hard modes. Not by a long shot. There is still content there. And that content is more challenging than the new stuff, which is a tier higher. That's the problem. That's the problem right there. Ulduar was a great instance. Came out 6 months too late, but it was a great instance. The hard modes were really good. Shame they couldn't reincorporate the new heroic mode and make sure that all of the encounters, instead of 11 of them, have a hard mode, and they activate in a sensible way. That would be nice. You could go back and do that. Maybe revamp some of the rewards a little bit. That would be cool. However, it's the exception that proves the rule. Because Nax, the other big raid instance, is not fun. At all. It is boring. They don't want to do that. So, he goes on. I'd also put the complexity of fights like Yogg, Mimiron, or the Twin Valkyr against any ever offered in the game. No. Yogg, okay. Mimiron, no. Mimiron hard, yes. Yogg hard, yes. Twin Valkyr hard, maybe. But I'm sorry, Twin Valkyr got blasted. Twin Valkyr hard got blasted. No one got stuck on that fight. If you are a progression raider that was capable of doing the hard modes in Ulduar, you breeze this instance. That's the point. That's the problem. A progression raider wants to progress. That means the difficulty has to progress with them. If it goes backwards, then it's not progression, it's regression. Progression in only the most technical of senses. It doesn't give you the same thrill and enjoyment, it doesn't give you the same challenge. Now it goes on. If it feels like you aren't struggling to learn these fights as much as you used to, then that's probably true. There are now many sources for videos and strategies that have become a lot more robust and user-friendly. That doesn't make a blind bit of difference. I'm sorry. Back in the day, hardcore raiders and progression raiders were using all the strategies at their disposal. And yes, there are more videos than there used to be a couple of years ago, mainly because it's easier to record them, but that does not mean there was not an abundance of strategies for all this stuff. It didn't make a difference because the stuff was hard anyway. Okay, you got a strategy, that's fine, but the plan is only half the battle. The implementation and the execution, that's the other half. And if you can't do that, then you can read all the guides you damn well please. It won't make a blind bit of difference. He also goes on to say, as well as pretty sophisticated UI mods to help you track everything going on. Well, that should have been in the game to begin with. Let's be honest. I don't think the advent of good UI mods has really made a massive difference to difficulty. Quote, the whole raiding community is just more well-connected than it was in the MC and Blackwing Laird days. No. I'd say it's bigger, but I wouldn't say it's as, anywhere near better connected. Fact of the matter is, the raiding community hangs around on elitist jerks and has hung around on elitist jerks for years. Or on the Insidia forums, or whatever. These forums have been around for a while. He goes on. Many casual raiders could name a handful of cutting-edge guilds these days, which just didn't happen 4 years ago. Well, 4 years ago, no. Because you didn't really have such things as casual raiders back then. It was either you were part of the raid base or you weren't. And you knew the guys, or you didn't. You knew the guys like Inner Sanctum, you knew Nihilum, you knew Death and Taxes, you knew Curse, you knew those names. Back in the day, if you were part of the raider base. I don't think that's really an argument. Now, he goes on. I don't think the server-first folks are beating their heads against the content any less than they used to. Rubbish. Rubbish. In a hard mode where you have 50 attempts to get it right, not one, but 2 guilds blasted their way through on the first set of tries. The first week that the hard modes were available, boom! Gone. Annihilated. And he goes on. What has changed is that the rest of us are able to follow in their footsteps a lot more easily. They shouldn't. They shouldn't do that. It's not because the player base has got better. If they want to follow in the footsteps, then they should try to be as good. They should aspire to excel. And that's what the content should be designed to make people to do. Because people that don't aspire to excel are mediocre. Mediocre players should not be getting the best rewards. That's not how it should work. It's as simple as that. So, I'm going to call this nonsense from Ghostcrawler, I'll be honest. It's a ton of platitudes and nice PR talk. It's nonsense. The fact of the matter is, 3.2 raid content is too easy, period. That's why people are beating it easier, cause it's easy. My name is Total Biscuit, you listen to Blue Please here on WoW Radio. I will be right back after this, folks. I've heard people request that I play some more Epica for them. Now, Epica is the band that I played at the start. It was the Imperial March theme. They did an album by the name of The Classical Conspiracy. They've got some great stuff in there. Absolutely. And I'm going to play for you the Spider-Man medley. I'll be right back after this, folks, to tell you about the EU forums and why we do not deserve developer attention. Enjoy.